Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the March meeting of the Design Review Board. I apologize for the delay. A bunch of us here in the meeting and some of the applicants got stuck in traffic, but now we are ready to begin, and I think that this will proceed very quickly. Rogelio? Yeah.
Sure. Let's start off taking attendance, and I'll do a roll call. Ms. Butakavoli is absent. Mr. Diffenderfer? Here. Ms. Giller-Nelson?
Here.
Ms. Lewin?
Here.
Mr. Paez?
Present.
And Mr. Lester?
Here.
I brought an old naming table. Okay, so we do have 5 members present, 5 out of the 6, so we do have a quorum and we can proceed with the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Today's meeting of the Design Review Board has been scheduled in a hybrid format with a quorum of the board physically present in the City Commission chambers at the Miami Beach City Hall, and applicant, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via the Zoom platform webinar. In order to participate in today's meeting, those wishing to participate via the Zoom platform webinar may dial 888-475-4499, which is a toll-free number, and enter the webinar ID, which is 822-7394-1924, or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 822-7394-1924. Any individual wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon if they're using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if they're participating by phone. Now, before I will swear in those that will be testifying today, I'm going to read into the record the city's notice regarding lobbyist registration. If you're appearing on behalf of a business, a corporation, or another person, you need to register as a lobbyist with the city clerk's office. If you haven't registered yet, you should register before you speak to the board. You do not have to register as a lobbyist in 3 limited circumstances. Number 1, if you are speaking only on behalf of yourself and not any other party. Number 2, if you are testifying as an expert witness, providing only scientific, technical, or other specialized information at this public meeting. Number 3, if you are appearing as a representative of a neighborhood association without any compensation or reimbursement for your appearance, to express support of or opposition to any item. Expert witnesses and representatives of neighborhood associations shall, prior to the appearance, disclose in writing to the city clerk their name, address, and the principal on whose behalf they are communicating. If you're an architect, attorney, or employee representing an applicant or an objector, you must register as a lobbyist. These rules apply whether you're appearing in favor of or against an item, or encouraging or arguing against its passage, defeat, modification, or continuance. Now, if everyone would stand and raise your right hand if you intend to testify today. And if we have any virtual speakers, they will be sworn in at the time of the testimony. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will be giving in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you. Madam Chair, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin with the approval of the minutes, unless there's any other business.
We have no other business today.
Okay.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Paez,
A second.
second by Ms. Lewin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And it seems we have a continuance or a withdrawal.
Yes, we do have a deferral that is, actually, we do have a withdrawn item, DRB 24-1068, which was 4880 Pine Tree Drive. That item is withdrawn by the applicant. That was an understory home. They're now able to proceed with an administrative approval, so they're going to go by that route. So they've withdrawn their application. And then we do have a request for a deferral. That's item number 3 on the agenda. That's DRB 24-1040. That's 1500 Bay Road. No action is necessary because the item will be renoticed for a later date. The applicant's here in case you want to allow them to
Hi, good
discuss.
morning, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Tony Resio with office at 2800 Ponce Leon Boulevard, Suite 1200 in Coral Gables. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Just wanted to make sure that we intend to make some modifications to the application. We will be renoticing it, but we did want to state that for the record, so that it's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since it's going to be renoticed, no action is needed.
So then, are we ready to move on to new applications?
Yes.
Okay, great. DRB 24-1060, 424 West Toledo.
This application is requesting design review approval for the new construction of a two-story residence with an understory to replace an existing residence, including one or more waivers, and variances to allow the portions of the understory to be filled as proposed, to allow a wall fence to exceed the maximum height on the side facing the street and the rear yard facing the waterway.
Okay, so this is a waterfront lot. It's on Toledo Island, one of the Venetian islands. The applicant is proposing a modern two-story understory home. I would call it sort of a hybrid home as opposed to your traditional understory home because they are requesting a variance to be able to fill in a large portion of the understory home. The applicant does have a hardship with this in this regard, in that they're located adjacent to the causeway itself. So their front elevation is about 2 to 3 feet lower than the side elevations adjacent to the causeway. The causeway, this is where it's sloping up towards one of the bridges, so they have an interesting topology that we don't typically see in Miami Beach where everything is flat. So they are requesting a variance to be able to fill in a large portion of the understory. The portion of the understory that will be usable will be towards the southern portion of the lot, where the lot will be lower adjacent to the residential neighbor to the south. And so they'll have a garage and then an outdoor dining area that'll be in the understory that'll be usable. The remainder of the understory will be filled in. There will be some space in between the portion that's filled and the first slab of the home. So it'll be an interesting mix. They're also requesting 2 variances for their fences and walls adjacent to the Venetian Causeway. They're requesting a variance to allow that to be an extra 6 inches higher than what would typically be allowed, which is 5 feet at the property line. They're requesting to be able to go to 5 feet 6 inches through a variance. Staff is supportive of both variances given the location adjacent to the causeway. This is necessary to ensure the security and privacy of this property. And also to ensure that they don't have any issues related to runoff and drainage given the changes in topology in the vicinity. The home is of a contemporary style. Staff has no concerns with the architecture and design of the home, and staff recommends that the application be approved subject to the conditions in the attached order.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Hello, my name is Dakota Hendon with A&D Studio, Principal Architect, offices at 2420 Southwest 27th Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to present this project to you. I'll keep the beginning part pretty short, but just to give you some background from the design perspective, how we got here. From 2012 to 2016, I was working for New York City Planning during Hurricane Sandy and the recovery afterwards. So a lot of my career has been spent looking at how do we adapt to this new environment where everything is going to be a bit taller. We actually wrote, I think, the first sort of understory legislation in the country. At least we weren't able to find any precedents for it, which allowed that extra height using urban design tools that help mitigate the impact of the height. That was back in 2012. And then I moved to the Department of Design and Construction in New York City and implemented those zoning rules on hundreds of houses being elevated and rebuilt in the Rockaways in New York. Long story short, we approached this in a way that we wanted to make the house. We were first blessed to be a relatively large site, over 20,000 square feet lot area. I'll give you exact 21,874 square feet. So we have quite a bit of space to adapt the heights across. And as Rogelio mentioned, Our site is located at the southwest corner of Venetian and West Toledo, and at the West Toledo frontage, we're at about 4.2 NGVD, and then once you get to the top of the bridge, we're almost at 8. So there's quite a bit of elevation difference from front to side, and what we tried to do was incorporate the large area and sort of slowly transition this house. So we have a slight raising of the yard at the front of the house to the amount allowed by the code, but that actual elevation, once you get around to the Venetian side, that initial kind of retaining wall disappears because of that elevation change. So we have a small retaining wall at the front of the property that sort of turns into our perimeter wall at the side, but at that point, the grades are level here. I'll get into that. Just to show you through the surrounding neighborhood, 412 West Toledo is right next door. The current house is a 1980s style house that's in somewhat of disrepair and not necessarily of notable quality and doesn't qualify as architecturally significant. There's also an existing large wall on the property line along the Venetian Causeway that's, you know, relatively unsightly. These are some additional photos of the property. And then just to give you a sense of the kind of overall style and approach, this would be the front of the house. You'll see the small retaining wall at the front. And the raised part, the tallest part, is really just at that front middle section. So we've created a breezeway. The intent of the owner is to showcase some of his sculptures that he's been collecting. So some of that's really driving a lot of the decisions in the house, and you'll see from the site plan it's a little bit different because they're not proposing a pool. It's more looking at the house as more of a sculpture garden and being able to have views of those sculptures from both the street and from within the house. From the back side, you see we also have like what we call the middle terrace, which is the majority of the site is at the understory level. That's about 7 feet NGVD. And then, it goes from 7 at the property line up to about 9, which is the kind of, the understory doesn't go above 9 NGVD. And then we have this sort of middle terrace running through the center of the site, which is the highest point that reaches its pinnacle at this, the breezeway between the two sites. So we tried to keep all of the slopes gentle to really utilize the breadth of the site. And then this would be the Venetian Causeway elevation. You see our intention is to try to maintain about a 6-foot height for the wall on this side above grade. So when you measure from future adjusted grade, which we have as a 711 3/4 is the future adjusted grade, the wall just steps up sort of in line with that elevate, as the sidewalk slopes up, we've tried to step the wall just that little bit amount to maintain that. So this 3D AXO, I think, also helps to illustrate where the topography is running. Within the front yards, we don't go anywhere above 9, which is our BFE, throughout the site. And this middle terrace is 11. And at the middle, sorry, I want to make sure I get the numbers right. The majority of our finished floor is at 15.6, which is higher than what is necessarily even allowed. Like the BFE plus 5 gets us to 14. Only a small portion of the house is actually at 14. We're raising it an extra 1.5 feet at the owner's discretion for additional safety and to get us the actual ability to have a usable space at the gym area. So we've also let me go to the floor plans to give you a sense. So this is the understory plan. As you saw from the renderings, there's 2 main blocks of the house. The northern block is just unoccupied below. It's about a 3-foot clear space because that majority of that area is just sloping up to this middle section, which is the highest point. So you can see the topo lines kind of run around here. So this is our tallest point, which is actually being cut through in the understory plan, and the rest of this is all mid-level, and then the lowest level, which is about 9, which is also the proposed seawall height. The understory has a garage, an outdoor dining area, and then, as I mentioned, the majority of the rear side of the site is dedicated to that sculpture viewing and garden. When you go up to the main level, the breezeway is unenclosed. To one side is the gym and bedroom volume. We've actually stepped up the gym. Like, we have a lot of different levels going on in the building, and we stepped up the gym in order to give us a clear height for that understory barbecue area. And across the breezeway is the main part of the house, the living room. Everything from the dining room to the right is all at 15.6. And then we step down into the great room and outdoor covered area, which are at that 14, which is the BFE +5. We've incorporated, one thing we've noticed with a lot of houses is the visibility of the mechanics is, even with the screens, can sometimes be unsightly. The equipment tends to be taller. There always seems to be some visibility to it. So we tried to incorporate above the areas that can be lower ceilings, a mechanical mezzanine. So built into the kind of facade of the house is a mechanical roof that will visibly screen all of the mechanical equipment. And then on the second floor is the bedrooms, the office, and some balcony areas, and then 2 staircases that can connect you to each side of the first floor. So theoretically, if it was raining or you didn't want to go outside, you still have opportunity to go through the whole house without having to go through the breezeway. Roof plan shows a large overhang for the second floor. You can see the venting for the mechanical roof areas, and then our covered terrace. This is the front of the house, the materiality that we're looking. The renderings that I showed at first were professionally done, so they're a little bit higher quality. And then I'll just run through the sections to give you a better sense of those heights that we were talking about. Here you can see the undulating ground line below the unoccupied area of the understory. So we're still keeping that open. We're still allowing water to run underneath the house. We intend to use a concrete block screen for that whole area to block in views, which will be the 50% open. And then this is through the center of the site, which would be the tallest section. So you see the breezeway is still raised up a little bit above that, and everything can flow underneath. This is the more complicated section, which is at the garage and barbecue terrace. And then this is the opposite view directly through the breezeway running north-south. So you see the garage, the main level where there's the 3 stories. We have a number of cross sections. I'll wrap it up quickly. We have a number of cross sections in our set, but I just highlighted a few here to get, in case you guys have any questions about how the site is at each corner. This would be along the Venetian, at the side of the property. And then just to go over the variances very quickly, understory grading, as we're showing, and Rogelio mentioned, it's this hybrid philosophy of trying to bring the ground, do a little bit of everything so that nothing looks out of place. Like, slowly slope the ground up, raise the building a little bit more, try to find ways that we don't just either have a blank wall immediately at the street, or that we have these sort of imposing 3-story volumes that also, give us the sense that these buildings are getting so large. So we're trying to mitigate all of those kind of different aspects. The site conditions are what I think dictate the requirement for the variance, which is this kind of siting of the house along the Venetian Causeway. And happy to go into any more specific questions that you guys have. I have just additional drawings from the set showing how we plan to treat the understory. And then the wall, we've cut it at kind of the high point of the site and the low point of the site. So you'll see that throughout it's approximately 6 feet along that Venetian Causeway, but We do need that, whereas at the low point, we're at code allowed from, if we're measuring from future adjusted grade, but when we get to the high point, it's significantly lower. You see the red line is where we measure from, and then at the high point of the site, it's much lower. So we're hopeful that the design of the wall helps to mitigate any impact of that extra height and provide the security at the side along the Venetian. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
Anybody on Zoom, please raise your hand. We have no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, great. I'm now closing the public portion, opening up for discussion for the board. Who would like to begin? Do you want to start?
I mean, when I reviewed the plans yesterday, I really liked the removal of the impervious surfaces in the back terrace area. So it's always love when I see more green in a plant than removing the green landscaping. So I really enjoy that part of the design.
Thank you.
Laura.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a very thoughtful way to handle the topography and the grade changes. Yeah, I really don't have any questions, but thank you. It's a beautiful design.
Yeah, I have to say, I really appreciate the sort of deep study of the massing. One of the things that we've been finding with these larger properties, as you can imagine, and with the understory, is this very blocky, massive, overwhelming structure that overwhelms the neighborhood. And I think that you've done a good job having a sensitivity to that, breaking it up. I like how both you and your client are really highlighting the art, the collection, the sculpture collection. And I think that this is an interesting, I would hope too that moving forward that this is a great model to look at of a way to not make a structure that is very tall. I thought your comparative elevation, I don't know if it was in the presentation, but
I
in
don't
another.
have it in the presentation.
This structure is a lot taller than the ones adjacent that are also very new homes. So, and that's always something that we're aware of like, how is this going to impact the context? But I think that because it's at the corner and you're right next to the causeway, I think that this property can absorb that in a way that maybe other properties couldn't. So yeah, I appreciate that. And then, I'm wondering, does this condition where you have the property sloping up, does it affect all of the homes on the Venetian that are like this, or this just one in particular? Like, has it been raised since?
It will likely affect homes that are on the Venetian at the approach to a bridge.
Yeah.
It will likely affect other homes like that. So we may see, this would set an example that we may see other homes that might request similar variances to come before the board.
Because this is when you're saying with the hybrid, I mean, I know how that plays out here, but it seems like maybe there's a concern from the planning perspective of, applicants who are proposing doing both and then getting even more height. Mm-hmm. So that would be my only concern with this project. Again, I think that this is a very sensitive way of figuring out this hardship. But I don't want to set too much precedent by saying, oh yeah, you can do both.
I don't foresee everyone wanting to use this mechanism because they lose usable space in the understory, and I think people want to maximize that usable space in the understory to the extent possible, maximize that square footage, and they're foregoing that. So I don't think everybody's going to do it, but I think you might see a few that might request a similar variance if they're at similar locations. So we have, I wouldn't see it at Belle Isle, but the other two islands, perhaps, you might have 4 properties total that would be in a similar circumstance. So I don't think you're going to see an explosion of this type of.
Or I'm even thinking too, maybe in other areas of the city where you have properties adjacent to these small bridges.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how it's been or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's possible. I think the Venetian Causeway is probably higher than, for example, the Sunset Island bridges. A few of the other bridges that I'm thinking of. So I don't foresee this concept taking off because of the loss of that space. But if people are proposing it, I don't think I think it's a pretty good idea in these circumstances. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I noticed about the design, which I do think is lovely, but there's a lot of screening. Did the client not want any windows or fenestration facing east?
So from the east, all of that is glass behind, and the intention is that those screens would be openable. So the master bedroom volume, those will all open completely. It's sort of using a Brazilian reference of like mitigating the sun with the screens, but also giving them the opportunity to open those completely. The master bedroom, which is kind of on the second floor at the furthest east section, this area, that has windows on all three sides. And we anticipate that the water views would be both north and south from that location. So the intention is very much that even though it appears in the renderings to be more solid, that there will be a ton of glass behind it. So basically everything you see on the upper floor, the side here facing the neighboring property is more solid, but the rest, these are all sliding glass doors that will also have bifold, those screens will bifold out of the way.
And what about along the east-facing facade? Along the street?
So on the east is a gallery, so there's going to be art opportunities along that whole thing, and would also have, we're still in the deciding if those screens will completely open or if they'll be more on the fixed side, but there's a gap between all of them. So there's still going to be visibility in and out. We just completed a house in Bay Harbor Islands with a similar product, and it's phenomenal from the inside, both open and closed. It really gives you a filter to the light without blocking your view. So it came out really beautifully, and we're hoping to sort of implement it on a bigger scale here.
That's great. Yeah, no, and I asked specifically too, because we've found in these renderings that it doesn't necessarily, like the gaps don't necessarily translate, like some things they read as more solid than they actually are. So
Exactly.
that was part of the question. And then, oh, I see there.
Yeah, we have glazing behind all of them, this whole extent. So this whole wall is going to be art facing the east.
Well, and I also think too, that's also, again, a good design choice. You know, that it could appear sort of solid-ish, but it's recessed. Like there's it's not this. Sometimes we see projects where it's just, a 40-foot wall, and so this you get the sense of privacy, but also lightness. And then can you show us on the rendering where those screen mechanical areas appear? Again, like from what would be visible from the street? Or is that just all hidden behind the initial screens?
So you can see, sorry if this, the slab is approximately here. So we have like a continuous screen to prevent you from seeing that it changes at that moment. But then there'll be a secondary screen that's behind, sorry. You can sort of see the crosshatch appearing in the renderings, like if I can zoom in. Sorry.
Yeah.
I won't try to zoom in, but in this area behind it, and this is a thickened slab, so we don't have a roof on top. It's just a screen to allow ventilation out the top. So we're getting about 6 feet in height clear there for the mechanical equipment to fit behind here. So that'd be our ACs, our hot water heaters. We also have generous spaces inside, so the hot water heaters, we're still deciding on exact location because we have a mechanical room within the space. But this would be all of our typical outdoor equipment would be located here.
Okay. Yeah, and I like the fencing, the attention to detail with that. So it's lovely. I drove by yesterday, and there's an existing wall that's maybe made of coral. Is that right?
On the Delito side, on the Delito side, it's covered, but in the these, you can see from here, like this
Yeah.
part is coral, and it has some coral columns, but as it turns the corner, it's just,
Have you considered, and I don't know if, how thick the coral is, but repurposing that as part of a landscape element, just because it's nice?
we
You
would
know,
definitely
I mean, I
consider.
noticed that there was like rock, you know, some rock formations or whatever, and,
Absolutely, and I mean, that's our intention with some
yeah.
of the rock shown here is to utilize some of the coral that's dug up from the site or that's already
Okay.
there so that we can use it to impact the landscape.
Great, okay, good. I think that's all yeah.
I agree with everybody. The design's really nice, and I think it really takes into account everything. I just want to ask you, though, you're aware of the impending rebuilding of the Venetian Causeway bridges, and this is such a beautiful project. I want to make sure that you're aware so it harmonizes nicely with what you're doing.
You know, I didn't make it a huge part of this presentation. We reviewed all the drawings. The future adjusted grade seems to be in line with those, so kind of using that future adjusted grade is helping us. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's not going up significantly at the center, but they're obviously replacing the bridges, the one at a time. We looked into the full project, and it seemed like we were okay for planning purposes using that future adjusted grade and then modify it.
Just make sure, I mean, at one point, they had proposed these really obnoxiously high bridges and they lowered it a lot, and they kept it more in the historical character, but I really want to make sure that there's not a weird snafu at the end and you have some weird thing to overcome, because it really is beautiful.
No, thank you. We've looked at it and think that we've accommodated accordingly.
Actually, Rogelio, let me ask you a question too, again, with this sort of hybrid understory thing, because I'm looking at, there seems to be a solid wall for the garage. I thought that an understory, it has to be open.
It has to be open, but there are some exceptions made for the garage and for access areas for accessing the upper levels. Otherwise, it does have to be open, but there are some exceptions made for those types of uses.
Okay, because this doesn't seem, I guess the understory isn't as visibly an understory
Right.
in this house.
It's almost like a crawl space for a good portion of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
These are the most unique properties, these ones that are right on the bridges. I think those are going to be exceptional as we go forward with this, so.
Any other comments or thoughts? No? Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And should we separate out the variances?
It's up to you. You can combine them. Usually if you think some are more likely to get approved than others, then it's better to separate them out. But if you think they're all easy to approve, then you can do it combined.
Yeah, combined approved. Thank you.
And I'd second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Lewin, second by Mr. Diffenderfer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Then moving on to our other item, DRB 24-1074, 3900 4000 Alton Road.
This application is requesting modifications to a previously issued design review approval for the replacement of the existing fence and installation of a new fence along portion of the perimeter of the property, including a variance to exceed the maximum allowable height for a fence within the required yards. As a background, on October 3rd, 2017, the DRB approved a similar variance to exceed the maximum allowed height for a fence within the required yards. And later on December 17, 2021, the Design Review Board approved the construction of a new 9-story multifamily building on the vacant portion of the site. So this site has two parcels, the Talmudic University on the north and the multifamily project on the south. This is located in the RM2 zoning district, and the applicant is requesting the variance, which is from the required setback and height in section 7.5.3.2 to exceed by 3 feet 11 inches the maximum allowed height of 5 feet for a fence located adjacent to the property line in order to construct a fence and gates up to 8 feet 11 inches in height measured from grade, which is 3.83 NGVD, within the required yards. As we know, fences are measured from grade. The existing grade at the middle of the sidewalk is 3.83 NGVD, and the yard elevation within the property is at 5.5 NGVD. There is a difference of 2.3 feet from the sidewalk and yard elevation, and without a variance, the fence would only be 3.3 feet in height from the yard elevation of the property. The hardship here is that the site has different yard elevations, so in order to achieve a good fence, variance is required. The proposed fences are located in the northeast corner of the property along the shared access driveway between the multifamily project and the Talmudic parcel, and the dog park amenity located at the southeast corner of the multifamily project. Staff does recommend that the final finish color of the fence be limited to a natural aluminum or silver gray to be consistent with the existing fence and as requested on the previously Design Review Board order. The requested variance would allow the fences and gates to be approximately 7 feet tall within the property, providing adequate security to the Talmudic College and multifamily parcel. The staff recommends the application be approved, including the approval of the variance, subject to the conditions enumerated in the draft order. And with this, I will let the applicant do
Thanks,
the presentation.
Alejandro. Good morning, Nicholas Rodriguez, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, here representing the applicant, 3900 Alton Road LLC. I'm joined by Ulysses Izquierdo from Arquitectonica, he's our architect, also from ownership by Andrew Guash and Cristina Cuervo. So this application is really like a finishing touch to the project that, as Ms. Nelson and Mr. Diffenderfer will remember, was approved in 2021, but we'll show you the project as it was approved shortly. And really, it's just to ensure that the Talmudic University maintains a secure campus, as well as securing the multifamily site. And with respect to the dog park, a 3-foot fence just wouldn't be adequate to keep people's pets in. And it's a very heavily traversed section of Alton Road right next to the project. So these fences are really just the minimum that we can do to keep the site safe and finish the project, which is very close to being done. I was just discussing with Andrew, they're going to be going for a temporary certificate of occupancy at the end of May. So it's exciting to see that project finishing up. So as Alejandro mentioned, this site is a unified development site with a covenant in lieu with the Talmudic University. So it's kind of unique in that even though there are 2 folio numbers and 2 parcels, it's one site for zoning purposes. So there's no setback in between the 2 properties. They essentially share the site. And just so you guys see, I'm sure you guys have seen it and driven by the site, but the project is almost complete. They're going to be going for temporary certificate of occupancy this summer. And this fence, really the dog park would be in this area, this heavily landscaped area at the southeast corner. And then going to the next photos of the existing conditions, this one you can see the existing Talmudic fence and where it kind of abruptly stops where the driveway is going to go. And that's where we're proposing the new fence to essentially continue exactly what the Talmudic has there now. So this is a close-up of the existing fence, and as Alejandro mentioned, in 2017, they obtained a variance for that fence, and the primary justification was to secure the site. And it's you'll see the retaining wall because there's a difference in grade elevation between the sidewalk and the level of the actual lot. And this driveway that you see here will be the same driveway that's going to access the project, but we're going to reconfigure that gate so the gate will become perpendicular to Alton Road. So you'll turn right to go into the Talmudic site or go straight and left into the multifamily site. And you'll see that here on a site plan. So on this site plan, we're marking up where the existing fence is at the top in green. In blue, it's kind of tough to see. Oh, I'm gonna highlight that, but the perpendicular portion of the fence, that will be the Talmudic access gate. And then our access gate to the multifamily property will be deeper into the site to allow enough depth so that there's no queuing problems. And as mentioned, the dog park is at the southeast corner of the site here, right next to that Julia Tuttle kind of entrance ramp. So we need the additional height of the fence to keep those people's pets inside. So this is the fence detail. One thing we wanted to point out here is this is the approximate height of the fence that we could build as of right. It just wouldn't secure the site at all. It would create a liability for the Talmudic University, also for the multifamily site. And it only applies within the first 4 feet from the property line. Everything that's beyond 4 feet from the property line, we are allowed to build the fence that we're proposing at the height that we're proposing. Accidentally put the wrong fence detail here, but just so you know, the second gate will be a little bit further into the site. It's going to be a swinging open gate, but that one doesn't require a variance. It's just so you guys understand how the circulation within the site works. So this is the rendering we prepared, and really the fence is pretty difficult to see, and that's on purpose with regard to the design of the fence. We didn't want to detract from the architecture of the building. I'm sure as you all remember, the building went through several iterations of different designs at this board. We're actually really proud of the way it's come out, thanks in large part to the comments from this board. We don't want the fence to become, an architectural feature or something to detract from the building, and we want it to match what the Talmudic has, because it would be kind of a jarring transition to do anything different. So we accept staff's condition to keep the color the same. The idea is for it to just blend, since it is one unified development site. Oh, sorry, and there's a close-up here, so you guys can see it a little bit better. Here's where the fence, why does it keep doing that? The fence turns perpendicular to Alton, and there'll be a gate here, and then our access gate will be in here. So with that, we respectfully request your approval of this variance today, so we can finish up this project and have new multifamily housing here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? No?
Anybody online, please raise your hand. Nope, nobody online.
Okay, great. I'm now closing the public portion, opening up to the board for comment. Do you want to?
I just have to concede the building came out much nicer than I thought it would. I have to say it really turned out really nice. So, and I don't have any problem with the fence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, seems pretty straightforward. I have two sort of clarifying questions.
Okay.
Is the dog park public, or it's just for the people that live in the building?
I believe it's an amenity for people that live in the building. It's not a public
And it's
park.
just, you have to go outside to go in?
Right.
Okay, yeah, I don't have a problem with the fence either. I do have a question about, I think maybe this is more for you just to clarify. First of all, there was a very large tree in front that was taken down. Is that going to be replanted and replaced?
Andrew, do you know? You want to come up? It's okay. You can't talk from back there. You got to come up and talk through the mic. Or you can tell me and I can talk to you. Okay. We're discussing now what that DOT does. So yeah, so it was an FDOT landscape buffer. That right of way is an FDOT right of way. So they're discussing, I guess, mitigation with FDOT. Site visibility triangles. So there's site visibility triangles that the tree might conflict with.
Blocked.
So it blocked previously. So where they replant, I guess, is being negotiated.
Okay, because I mean, it was a beautiful shade tree that I know the city is promoting in the swale, which I believe is public property. So I just want to make sure that something is there too.
The city's tree protection ordinance would require mitigation. So they'll have to plant something somewhere. I can't tell you, I don't know off the top of my head where that's going to happen, but they would definitely have to mitigate that.
And I do remember, I think it was part of this discussion that the increased foot traffic that's going to happen with this building, are there any plans to put a crosswalk anywhere? Already, I will say, there's a lot of foot traffic in the middle of the street of people crossing from the Talmudic University, and that's a very busy street. So, and I think it's only going to get worse when this building gets full. So something.
I know the 41st Street Master Plan talks about improving pedestrian connectivity. So that's definitely the city's goal along 41st Street. We're working with FDOT on making that happen. It's ultimately their right of way, so we rely on them. Definitely where we can improve pedestrian safety, we're going to do it. I don't know specifically if there's any crosswalks proposed here, but I'll follow up and I can get back to you on that.
I would say too, because I'm in this section a lot, and nobody seems to walk from the entrance or exit of the building now to 41st Street to cross. They cross in the middle, and there's people turning left to go south, and it's a lot of families, and it's really dangerous. So, and there's nothing there. But there's
It would make
space
sense
for
at
something.
39th Street to have a crosswalk there for pedestrians.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think that the issue is ever, there's never been a need, because there's never been so much there, but
Right,
it seems that the pedestrian,
So through the chair, there actually did build a crosswalk. It's at the southeast corner where the dog park is. FDOT wouldn't let them put it at the middle of the site because it doesn't comply with their regulations. But they did build one that will go into effect.
can you bring up where exactly that is? Because isn't the dog park really close to where the entrance to the Julia Tuttle is? Like right there?
You can't see it on the site plan, but Andrew, it's here in the corner. I don't know why this keeps highlighting.
Yeah, around,
Next to this driveway?
it's right next to the entrance to the property.
Okay, so right next to it, so like here. Oh, it aligns with our
Oh, there.
pedestrian entrance?
It's not, it's further north of the dog park, just at the entrance of the property.
So does it align with that pedestrian pathway that comes
Yes.
into the site? So yeah.
Go to the site plan, or sorry, the rendering. Maybe it's in rendering.
So that would be on Berry Street.
It's at the corner of Main Street.
No.
So it's at the corner of Berry Street. We could send you a site plan that shows that it was studied as part of our traffic study that we submitted with the original project. We didn't expect that to come up today, so, but I believe it was studied as part of our traffic study, and Andrew's telling me that they built it, so.
Okay, yeah, I mean, just so, just so you know, like, that's what's happening on that street now, and it's only gonna get worse, so I mean, like, I've not, like, people are turning, they're coming out of the church. It's really, really busy, and no one seems to go to the corner.
Right, yeah,
So, something to think about with the planning.
agreed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? No? Does anyone want to make a motion?
So moved that we approve the variances.
I'll second that.
Second.
Second by Mr. Diffenderfer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Good luck navigating the traffic this weekend and today.
All right, and those are all the items we have for today. Next month, we also will have 2 items. May will be a little busier. I'll be on vacation, so Michael Belush will be here in my place. But we'll see you next month,
And here, April 10th
April 10th.
is the next meeting. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, and have a good month. Thank you.
Thank you.